Tikin Xic is fish, butterflied, marinated with achiote, cooked over the coals, served with salsa and pickled red onions. This is a dish you want to learn how to make. Okay, let's talk fish first for this classic Tikin Xic recipe. I will say that most of the time when you find it in a restaurant, and it would be one of those really beautiful seaside restaurants where you're looking out at the ocean, your feet are in the sand, and they got a wood fire over there where they're cooking the fish. Super idyllic, but you can do it at home. But most of those places will have about a 3-pound fish. That seems to be the easiest one to work with. I think that serves 4 people very nicely. So any kind of fish that's about that size that doesn't have a real bony structure will work. So think a little bit about things like types of cod. That works really well for this. Snapper, of course. Grouper is another favorite for this kind of a preparation. What I'm going to use today is a farm-raised striped bass from Baja California, from Ensenada. And it is hands down one of my absolute favorite fish, and really one of my favorite fish to do this with. In fact, we built a whole restaurant menu around this kind of preparation. So I'm going to show you how to break it down so that you can butterfly the fish and then actually get it on and off the grill in a good way, okay? So first thing that we have to do, I have a scaled and gutted fish with the gills all cut out of it. If the gills aren't out of yours, you just cut them out with a pair of shears like that. The next thing you'll do is to cut off all of the little fins that are around here, because those are going to get in the way a little bit later here. So a good heavy pair of shears is going to be very useful for this kind of an endeavor. You can leave them on, and some people do, but I just find they really get in the way, especially the ones that are here. This is called the dorsal fin. And you really want to get those cut off of here. And they're also very, very sharp. So get those off of there. Okay, next step. We are going to be butterflying this fish so that it will lie flat like that. So the first cut that I'm going to make here is going to be toward this end of it here. And I'm going to cut down on the side of the bones on toward me, and I'm going to go down to the backbone, and then I'm going to go over the backbone. Now you have to look at this. You can see the backbone here. There's some ribs right in through here, but that's the backbone there. When I hit that, I'm going to go over it and poke through with my knife, and then just let that free completely. And then I'm going to go over here and wait till I get up to the rib bones here that are opening this, that are covering this visceral cavity here. And then use my shears again to go in here and cut through those rib bones that are there, freeing that on one side, okay? And then I'm going to use my knife, but I'm not going to cut through all the way. And I'm just freeing this until I get to the very back here. Okay, so this is when you get it to this point here, and this is the sort of the heart of your fillet up here like that. We do want to cut through and free this area here. So I'm going to cut through here so we can open this guy out like this, and then I'm going to keep it sort of open here while I'm going to use you notice that I'm working on a cutting board here that I can easily clean. And then I'm going to use a cleaver to go right down in the middle of the head there so that it's just going to lie a little bit more flat here. Okay, so there we go, opening all of that out. Now we've got one side free up to here, but now I want to really free it all. So I'm going to go up here using the shears again to cut through any of the cartilage and such that's there, and then open this out. Okay, so that's one side of it basically there. Now we're going to go out and free the other side of it. So this time I'm going to go underneath these bones here and cut along here. And when I get down to the bottom again, I'm going to just cut through so that I can free this backbone here. And I'm going to flip it around so that you can see it just a little bit better here, I think. I'm going to cut again along here, freeing the fillet from until I reach these rib bones here. And then the rib bones are going to need to be cut through right at the backbone. This is a little bit like biology class here. And then using my knife, and I'm always angling the blade toward the bone here. So we're going to go all the way up to here. I got to free a little bit more up in this section here so that we're going to be able to pull out this whole backbone. Now, when you see a pro do this, and I am far from a pro at it, but I work with people that are pros at it. They can just do it in so few steps that it's beautiful to look at, but I'm not sure that you're going to learn how to do it from them because they move so quickly through everything. So here's our backbone. So we're freeing that. I'm just freeing it with my hands here, just like that. And then when I get to the very top, I have to figure out a way to cut it, break it. So I can break it just by turning that like that. I just held it with the scissors there, and our backbone is out there. And then you've got this beautiful butterflied piece here. I'm just going to open that up just a little bit more so that it can lie a little bit flatter there. I'm going to clean all of this up. You have to decide what you're going to do with this, what we call the belly flap part of it. That you can leave on, or you can just kind of trim it off. I prefer to trim just a little bit of it off because that will give me then a little bit nicer look to this whole thing. This goes up here to the cheek. So you want to keep that cheek part on there because that's one of the nicest parts to eat. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here, just to even it up just a little bit. Now, some people in Mexico take this backbone and grill it along with their Tikin Xic fish. You can do that if you want to, but it doesn't have a whole lot of meat on it, so make your choice about that. I'm going to clean up here for just a minute, and then we're going to talk about the simple marinade that goes on a classic Tikin Xic. Okay, you know now how to butterfly the fish yourself. Well, you could go to a really good fishmonger and ask them to do that kind of butterflying for you. And if they are a really good fishmonger, they probably will be able to do it. But the other option that you have is just to get beautiful fillets and continue on with the recipe in the way that I'm going to show you. It just won't be the same dramatic presentation. So this is classic Yucatan style. We're going to start with achiote paste. This is the one that I prefer, the El Yucateco brand, but there are many of other brands out there. I like this one because it doesn't have any added color. This is just the natural color of the achiote seeds. They've ground them up with garlic, vinegar, and a whole bunch of spices and herbs. So I've broken that apart. Fresh squeezed lime juice is going to go in there. And then this takes a little patience, but I'm just going to work all of the achiote into that lime juice. And it'll just take a couple of minutes to do it. It's such a small amount that you really can't do it in a food processor or a blender. It's just not enough to move around in there very well. So I suggest you do this by hand. This is the consistency that we're looking for. So it's not watery, it's a little thicker than that. And that's what it should look like. It doesn't have quite enough salt. to season all of this. There is some salt in the achiote paste, but it's going to take another ½ teaspoon of salt to bring it up to that level. And stir that in until it dissolves. And then I'm going to use a spoon here just to kind of smear it all over this butterfly stripe bass. Okay, we've got a nice even coating here on the fish. I have about half of it left there. I would say put it in a small container and put it on some vegetables before you roast them. Some olive oil, achiote roasted vegetables I think are really, really good. Next thing that we're going to do, and this is an optional thing, so you can choose to do it or not. The first time I ever had Tikin Xic, it was done this way and I loved it, so I continued to do it. This is a 1 pound package of frozen banana leaves, which is probably what a lot of you will be getting. I'm just going to take this piece here. So you can see it's really a banana leaf off of a banana tree. I'm going to cut a piece of it off here because I want one piece that will be big enough to go onto this hinged grill basket that I have here. So I'm going to cut about like right there. Now this is the side that attached to the main rib of the banana leaf. I usually cut that part of it off because it's not very flexible at all. Now what is this going to give you? Well, certainly it's going to give you an exotic presentation, but the other thing, it's going to give you the flavor of banana leaf. And banana leaf flavor is quite sweet and herbal. I like that a lot. We will now, well, let's go back to this hinged grill basket because you have to see that. So there are lots of different varieties of hinged grill baskets out there. It's just that hinge there. This has the flexible wires, which I really love for this kind of presentation. It makes absolute way easier than if you have the static bars that come across here. If you have just the bars on your grill basket, then you'll want to really brush them or spray them very generously with oil. I don't find I have to do that with this particular basket, but I'll give you that word just to start with here. Okay, next we'll put this guy here, and then I'm going to pick up the fish and lay it onto the grill basket onto the banana leaf there. And then I'm going to spray the top, the flesh side of this fish with some oil. And be generous with this because this is what's going to help things not to stick. I love working with a sprayer. It's way easier than trying to do that with a brush. I'm going to put the top down here. Then this will slide up and it'll catch. If it doesn't catch easily, like this one's not wanting to catch here, then I'm going to just wrap a piece of foil around here just to keep it in place, and that'll work as well. So let's head out to the grill. So usually this is something that's cooked over a wood fire, at least a charcoal fire. You can do it on a gas grill. This is sort of a hybrid grill, so I've got some charcoal burning down here underneath, but then below that I can have an assistive gas if I want to. But it's what I would call medium hot. I'm going to now turn this over onto the hottest part of the grill, like that. There's some of that, you notice some of that oil that just dripped off of there, and that's what sort of did all of the sparking and the little flame that you saw there. And then we're going to leave it for about 4 minutes or so, 5 minutes maybe. This is a pretty hot fire, so it may cook pretty fast. And then we'll flip it over when we get a nice browning going on underneath. I think it's about ready to flip here. You'll notice that the banana leaf sort of starts to burn a little bit around the edge. That's okay. Let's see what we got here. Oh, it's looking pretty good. A little bit of it stuck over here, but not bad. That just touched the grill and then just stayed on that. So I'm going to let it cook now, moving it over. This side of the grill is much less hot. So I'm going to move it over here. I only have charcoal under this part of it over here, and I could just bring this down. Of course, the little handle will be sticking out, and we can just let it coast over there to complete doneness. This is the way I like to cook fish a lot, is to put it on a very hot part of the grill until I get it browned and get good grill marks in it, and then flip it over into a cooler place and just let it coast to doneness. You have a lot more control when you do it that way than if you try to cook the whole thing on the hot part of it. So we'll look at it again in a couple of minutes and see. We'll start testing it to make sure that it's done, but it shouldn't take more than about, depending on how hot your fire is, something around 6 or 7 minutes to do the whole thing, really. If you have a lower fire, of course, it'll take a lot longer. Okay, let's check it. This is always the part that I get the most excited about, because this is the moment when I have to determine if it's done or not. So I always call it that you're looking for the fish to flake under firm pressure. So I'm going to go in here and I can see that it's flaking. It didn't flake completely easily. I had to give it firm pressure, and that tells me that it's right. It's ready to go. So now it is time to, I'm going to put it back over here on this thing here, and we'll talk about how this is presented and served. Okay, undo the foil. That was my little clamp there on top. I always take a small spatula and go in here and free all of the meat from, you can see any places that it's sticking. Actually, quite hot there. So I'm just gonna grab it with this, and then you can see where it's sticking. So that's the places that you'll do the freeing right there. That's why I like this little basket with the flexible wires like that, because it's really easy to work with. Nowhere else was really sticking there, maybe a little bit down here. So we'll open up this basket now, and we're going to transfer it out of here. I always just break off the pieces of burnt banana leaf, and I've taken another banana leaf piece to line the platter, so I can just kind of reinforce all of that. But this burnt part of the leaf can just go away like that. Okay, now I am going to use a couple of spatulas. Big spatulas for this would work well. This is one of the most useful pieces in my kitchen. This is really a piece that for people that make layer cakes and they're splitting cakes, this is what you transfer the cakes with. But I use it for all kinds of things. So I'm just going to come up underneath here, where I can get underneath the leaf like that. That won't have stuck to the wire basket, but you have to thread it. You have to kind of thread it. And then I'm going to go with this spatula underneath this part of it here, and I think I can just pick the whole thing up and go right over onto our platter. See how pretty that is? Really, really lovely. We've got the classic condiments here. I have the Schneepeck version of the salsa mexicana, or pico de gallo, the one with the radishes in it. And I made with habanero chili, the pickled red onions, and of course all of the lime wedges that you want to pile on the platter for everyone to squeeze over the fish. Now, you might feel like that once you've gotten to this point, you have no clue how to serve this. And certainly it's for people who are adventurous and don't have to always have boneless pieces of fish, because there are going to be some bones up it, especially in around this part of it over here. But I will tell you what you can look at here, and this might be very helpful to you as you're serving, that you have basically this as a fillet here and this as a fillet on this side. So what I usually will do is to cut that fillet in half like that, then free it here at this part of the fish, like where the backbone was, and then just come up underneath there, and then that can be a piece to serve to someone. But of course, if you're going to make this into a super casual thing, people can just take off pieces of this fish and make their own little tacos, which is what I'm going to do right now. I've got steaming hot corn tortillas here. And I'm going to just take a little piece of this beautifully cooked fish to put onto the tortilla. Of course, it wouldn't be finished without a squeeze of lime. A few of these pickled onions to go over the top of that. And then a spoonful of this Schneepeck salsa there. And I will tell you, this could be one of the most memorable bites you ever have.